Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Spooky Town Tales. Tonight we will be discussing all things If you don't know what that is, that's the X-Files theme song. It was pretty good if you ask me.
Just like.
We're going to be talking everything UFOs, extraterrestrials, and anything out of this world, really. Just like you, Jimmy.
You're out of this world.
He's back. He's bad. He's better than ever. Mr.
Better
Jimmy.
than last week. Anyway.
Mr. Jimmy Bug is back in the spooky seats, joining me this evening to fall down the rabbit hole that is this topic. It's quite a controversial, conspiracy theorist kind of topic.
It is.
Wouldn't you say?
That's where they enjoy to dabble in the conspiracy theories like you wouldn't believe.
Yes, yes. And I myself will be dropping some of my conspiracy theory bombs on you tonight.
Ooh.
And then you can stew on those for a bit and see what you reckon. See if I blow your mind. So welcome back yet again. This week is going to be a mishmash of local and just Australian stories. Just as examples of some pretty cool encounters that have happened in our magnificent country. So I'll be sort of jumping to and fro, both local and nationwide encounters.
Yeah, excellent.
So yes, it's not as specific to the region, but there's plenty of stories from the region. So strap in, get comfortable, pour yourself a drink, and prepare to be. Now, spooked doesn't really work tonight. I suppose it does. We could say prepare to be spooked.
Yeah.
But we could say...
You gotta do it in a good voice, though.
Prepare you to be your spirit.
Whoa, in
That was
theme.
pretty galactic,
In theme
wasn't
and
it?
everything.
Look out.
Robotic.
Yes. Now, last week I set the bar pretty high, but I'm going to have another go and see if I can jump a little higher.
Higher.
Yeah.
I had to sleep with the lights on for like all of last week.
Jimmy, why are there only 18 letters in the alphabet?
Why?
Because E.T. flew off with a UFO and CIA chased after him.
Wow.
Yep. You're welcome.
That's a rip.
You are welcome, my darling listeners. Right, let's get on with the spooky stories.
Please do.
The first encounter I'm going to read about actually took place in Australind,
Whoa.
and this was in 2014. This occurred on a mostly clear night at around 6:45 p.m, and the eyewitness was standing, looking west, when he saw the sky light up. Mm-hmm. He immediately thought it was a meteorite because there was sort of sparks and a fiery sort of appearance to this illumination. So it looked like something breaking through the atmosphere, like you would see during a meteor shower. So it definitely was something entering the atmosphere from what he could see. However, as the flash sort of dissipated, there happened to be like an aircraft of some sort in the spot where the light flash had stopped. The lights on this craft didn't look the right colours of a normal aircraft. So that was another little alarm bell. So it was like, what? That thing is right where the light stopped.
So you normally have like blue, red, and white in most scenarios, I think.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but he just said the colours weren't right.
Yeah, right.
Of the lights. So it didn't seem to be a normal aircraft, and then it began travelling north for about 5 seconds before it disappeared for about a second, and then it reappeared a significant distance further north from where he'd just seen it.
Whoa.
So it seemingly vanished, then reappeared like a good 20k away, he reckons, in the sky.
Right.
So it only stayed visible for a few more seconds after that, and then it disappeared completely. Now, the creepy, weird thing about this experience is his partner was driving home at the exact time he saw this.
Yeah.
When she gets home, she gets out the car and says, I've just seen the weirdest thing in the sky while I was driving home. Describes the exact same thing to him.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they've both seen it at the exact same time, both described it exactly the same. He saw more because he wasn't driving.
Yeah.
So he's was able to determine how many lights and the shape of this craft.
Yeah.
So he also saw later on, because obviously once you've seen something like that in the sky, you do tend to be looking in the sky more often. I mean, you're like, what the frig was that thing? He'd obviously been checking out the sky another night.
Yep.
Shortly after this, and said he saw something weird again.
Whoa.
But this time, rather than seeing it come in like a meteorite or whatever,
through the atmosphere.
it was a sequence of flashing lights that would appear, disappear, then reappear way off to the west, then disappear, then reappear off to the north, and just would shift and move super rapidly, vanish, then reappear. Which I've seen that sort of thing myself, because I used to sit out the back on the back wall.
Yeah,
and you'd see these weird lights that would seemingly appear and then vanish, and then they'd reappear really bright, move around in sort of a zigzag shape, and then disappear again.
Yeah.
So this is similar to what this bloke's seen.
Whoa.
So that's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Considering that his partner saw this exact same thing, just confirmed it for him.
Be enough to freak you out, though.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, and then someone else tap on your shoulder and go, hey, did you see that?
And it's one thing to see it and then sort of, you do sort of go, okay, well, it was a meteorite.
Yeah.
Something's come through the atmosphere. I've been lucky enough to see it happen. But then to be following it with your eyes and see the light disappear and then have a craft then suspended in the air, that's pretty weird. And even weirder, it was at 6:45 at night. So, you couldn't even put it down to...
No.
You're not overly tired at that time of night.
No, but it depends what time of year too, because it'd be weird if it was more...
I believe it was summertime.
Yeah, so it'd be...
So it still would have been a bit light, not too dark, yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Very interesting. So that one was in Australian residents. Keep an eye out in the sky, out towards, I believe it was towards the ocean, looking west towards the ocean, towards the sea.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's the pretty friggin' weird.
Yeah.
So that's in the Australian area that was witnessed. This one's pretty good, and this one might actually sort of strike a nerve with you because you spent a bit of time out in that neck of the woods. You might actually know where he's talking about. I don't know where he's talking about, but this took place in the Boddington area.
Oh, okay.
Driving inland towards Pinjarra, this one. This took place, first time it was in 2009, and that would have been before you started working in Boddington, the year before.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh no, you would have been working out there, because you started working out there in 2009 when I was pregnant with Scarlett.
Oh, would have.
Yeah, you would have been out that way.
Yep.
Okay, so this took place, Jimmy...
Wasn't me.
Wasn't him.
Not that I know of.
But he was working out there every second week for a while. So the first time, I'll read you the encounter. The first time I saw this, I was with two other guards who were driving back from a crowd control shift at the Boddington pub. On the first occasion, he saw it with two other work colleagues.
People,
The second time he saw it, he was on his own.
Yeah.
So what he's described is a wheel-like shape with intermediate blue flashing lights around the object, like a wheel-like flying object.
Right.
It was illuminated and approximately 6 feet in diameter. And it was in the shape of like an upright disc. And it was spinning.
Right.
And it was like, it just looked like a giant flashing wheel to him. It appeared next to my employer's security car that he was a passenger in at the time. So they're all in the car. They all saw it appear next to the car. It held its position at about 100 k's an hour. So it was keeping speed with the car at about 100 kilometres an hour for about 4 seconds. Then it raced off into the forest at an unimaginable speed. So it just zoomed like ahead of them, threw off into the forest, like this ridiculous amount of super fast. And they were watching it dart between the trees. So it was seemingly able to manoeuvre
really, really well
through a forest, so through a heavy tree
at rapid speed, like beyond. He reckons it would have been easily between 3 times the speed they were driving. That's moving.
And then it was out of sight, like it very quickly was gone, and they couldn't see it anymore. So that's pretty friggin' weird.
I don't know that area, because if you're saying between Boddington and Pinjarra sort of way,
so it's the opposite way.
That's not the way I used to go, but that's pretty. From what I recall of that area, that's pretty weird scrubland through there too.
Yeah,
it's dense, low and dense, but.
But he reckons the second time he saw it was in that exact forest area, through the dwelling up area, and he saw it by himself that time, same exact thing.
Yeah.
And he just cannot explain what it was. Tried to work out what it could have been. Now, if you think about it, the second time he saw it was 2013. So the first time was 2009. Second time was 2013.
Yeah.
My brain, anything prior to 2008 is, you can scratch your head and go, no, that's okay, I can't explain that.
Yeah.
But for anything past that time, I start wondering that was the evolution of the drone.
True, but could you move?
You couldn't move that fast. A drone can't move that fast. I know. So I'm not.
Even if you could, the thing that gets me is even if you could move a drone that fast, you're still human operated.
Yeah. Okay.
And to be able to get through trees and things like trees and things like that, you couldn't do it.
No, you couldn't do it.
You couldn't control it.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Yeah, but for other ones that I've read that are more recent encounters, so I've basically siphoned through a shit ton of stories to read you ones that I can't really think up what it could have been other than something that we don't know.
Yeah.
So there's plenty that I've seen you can totally disprove, okay, that's someone dicking around with a drone.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's another thing. Now, I mean, back when I was a kid and looking up at the sky, drones weren't a thing. No one had drones except for the military.
I had a dream of one when I was a little kid.
You had a dream of a drone?
It was completely physically impossible.
Yeah. Well, back then it was. But so are touchscreen phones. Exactly. And the internet at your fingertips. Technology has just zoomed forward from when we were little. But yeah, so that's a very interesting one. And I really do... I can't think of what else it could have been to move that fast. And to be 6 feet in diameter, that's quite large.
Well, 6 foot's... Yeah.
It's like the size of...
It's pretty big.
A tall man.
It's not something that you would miss if it was running alongside you at 100 an hour.
Spinning alongside you.
Yeah.
Now, what freaks me out about this story, it's sort of... it got a memory... going through my head, picturing what he was saying about it darting between the trees. Because when I was a young lassie, my mum would take us to her mum's house, which was up in Kalamunda. Usually if she was a bit wanting a break and a bit fed up, she'd take me and my brother and we would go up to visit Nana.
Yep.
And the other 3 would stay home. So we would go up to her mum's house up in Kalamunda. And this one particular night, she'd had a really rough week and was upset. So she said, "Come on, quick, let's go. I want to go to my mum's house." As you do. When you're overwhelmed, you want to go hang out with your mum because mum makes it better.
Yep.
So she took us and we had dinner there and we stayed there for a bit and thought, okay, mum was like, okay, I'm ready to go home now. But it was about 10 o'clock at night and I remember thinking it was abnormal because we're usually home by like a reasonable hour.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's, instead of sleeping there, because we had school the next day, we got in the car and we drove home. But mum went down the back way. Mm. Now, up in the hills, it is quite spooky at night.
Like this chasm and last. Is it sort
it's
of like
very, yeah, it's the same area.
Yeah.
Exact same area as mum's story. Creepy. So it's still, because it's hilly, it's not as developed as other Perth suburbs. So, and this was back in the 90s. So we're in the car, we start heading home, and we're going down this back road, and Mum got lost because it was night time. And her parents hadn't actually lived in this particular house for very long. They'd moved from Forestfield to this Kalamunda house.
Yeah.
So she wasn't as familiar with that area. She had grown up in the area, but wasn't, you know, when you know the back roads of where your parents live. So she'd taken a back road and she was a bit upset at the time. And so we're driving down this road and it's pretty much forest. You know how you got those back roads around here that it goes from bitumen to gravel? Yeah. So we'd ended up on a gravel road. Yep. And we're driving along and she's sort of panicking a little bit because she's like, wow, it's literally forest. Yeah. Either side of us, which we'd just been in sort of semi-suburban Kalamunda. Like, how have we ended up here? And we're heading quite steeply downhill. Yeah. So we don't know where we're going to wind up, but she's just following her gut and heading towards, you can see the lights down into the city from there. Yeah. So she's following this road, just heading, hoping she'll end up on a main road or something. But as we're driving along, the radio starts crackling and going all funny. Mm. That was the first thing. And so Callum's in the front from memory and he's trying to turn the dial and get it back to normal. Yeah. Then we all notice a light, like a beam from like a search helicopter, and it's shining. We can see it zipping through the trees really fast. And we're thinking, Jesus Christ, there must be someone running through the forest that they're trying to catch. But then we all commented, that's moving really. I've never seen a search helicopter move that fast, because we're pretty experienced with what search helicopters look like, having grown up in Marangaroo. It was a weekly thing. You'd see the light come down, you'd hear it come over, you knew what it sounded like, you knew what the light looked like. This was not the same. Yep. So it was a bright blue light that was getting wider and wider as it was getting closer, and it went from zipping side to side through the trees to doing a big massive circle. Yeah. And we're watching this circle getting closer and closer to the car. Then Mum's car starts sputtering. And then before we know it, this light is just going round and round and round, faster and faster around our car. Mum is completely freaking out. As you would. Callum's freaking out. I'm freaking out. We're all like, what the fuck is going on? Because it's literally this so bright, this light. Mum's already lost. Yeah. And we're thinking, is it the cops? Because by this stage, there's this, you can hear this kind of noise. I'm like, okay, it's obviously a helicopter. It's got to be a helicopter. What else could it be? And then, gone. Like silence. No light, no noise, gone. What? Car's back to normal. We continue down the road. We're in, all of a sudden, we've ended down the gravel road. We're on a nice, quiet street that's actually a bitumen road, and then we're back in civilization. What? So, whether or not it was maybe that we got to the edge of it, we were getting away from the forest, it's like, oh shit, they're nearly in civilization, we better leave it. We might get seen. Or it could have been a search helicopter, maybe that, I don't know. But I've never been I have been directly underneath a search helicopter. I shouldn't say I've never. Purpose. Not on purpose. I'm not a villain, I promise. I am not the Claremont killer. No, I was
pretty X-Filesy though.
It was mega X-Filesy.
That's crazy.
We got home and we were all just like, what the frick just happened? And then you shut it out. You're like, okay, let's just all pretend it didn't happen, because so many people. This is why I'm doing this show. I have countless people have told me stories, but then have said,
but you can't talk about it.
You can't share it, even if it's anonymous, because I'm terrified people are going to hear it and they're going to know it's me.
Yeah.
And I totally respect that.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy how our society has got everyone so frightened to even question.
Yeah.
What was that?
And it's funny you should say that, because ever since you're going off on a tangent, sorry, but ever since last week when you managed to be on the ABC radio, which congratulations for.
Thank you.
Talking to a few guys from work and about what we were doing, and that then turned into, I've got some stories.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I picked up when I was doing a bit of a chin wag at work, as I tend to, there was one of the guys had a mate who used to do drilling out in the northwest for
This WA?
in WA.
Yeah.
But it was up north somewhere.
Yeah.
Quite remote. I think he said it was more out towards Meekatharra way, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, his story was that he'd been driving along some back roads towards the camp where they were staying, and they had to drive along the side of a salt pan, basically, like a big salt lake with nothing in it. And as they were coming along the side, the road veered off and then cut back towards the salt pan. But just as they were coming up to where it was starting to veer away, they had a set of headlights come up behind them, and it was starting to weird them out because they were acting quite peculiar, and it was freaking him out a bit.
Like a bit of a Yahoo.
Yeah, just a local yob.
Yeah. Bloody yobs.
And he was saying that they were just constantly like getting closer and closer and starting to get quite aggressive. And then they took the right-hand turn, which was obviously veering away from the salt pan, and the lights were gone. And they thought that was a bit odd, so when they started coming back towards the salt pan, they could actually see on the salt pan the headlights, thinking it was quite odd that they were there.
Yeah.
Then, because obviously the passenger had a clear view of what was going on, once they turned back onto the sort of following the edge of the salt pan again, the headlights were right behind them again.
Holy shit.
And it was more creepy for them, it was so vivid.
Yes.
That they could see, look like a proper yobbo doing some weirdness of chasing him down, basically, like a lunatic. As they pulled into the camp, the lights were gone. Couldn't see them at all.
And couldn't hear the car?
Couldn't hear it, couldn't...
Like hear a car taking...
Absolutely nothing.
Far out.
But the weirdest thing was they went back the next morning to check the salt pan where they'd seen the lights go across.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
No tracks.
No tracks.
Far out.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a weird one that I got told at work.
That's super weird.
Thanks to your show, see?
Yes, see, people,
more
no,
stories.
You're safe with me. You're safe with us. You can tell us this stuff. We're not going to judge you because we are open-minded about this.
You have to be.
You got to be, man. The truth is out there.
It's out there.
I want to believe.
Build it.
If you build it, they will come. Now, that actually is a very good little segue.
Oh.
That story, because I have been reading several stories about a very similar thing.
Yeah.
People think there's a car behind them on the road, like vivid bright headlights shining in the back window.
Yeah.
Tailgating, coming right up close, and then seemingly vanishing.
Yeah.
Or the few weird ones, they go over the top of the car and then zoom off in front of them. So then you kind of go, that's not headlights. Now, just a heads up for you Greenbushes area people, because just want you to keep an eye out. Again, you got a spooky area, guys.
Yeah.
So many people have seen these lights either driving to that area or back from, but in the region of Greenbushes. So you got some weird shit going out there in Greenbushes.
There's some night trips in Greenbushes.
But there have been several documented encounters of these strange lights that show up on roads behind cars, and people think it's a car, and then they just disappear. And no, they don't turn off, and there's usually about 3 or 4. It's not like it starts off as 2 or 1, and then it sort of breaks up into multiple lights. It's several of the ones that I've read.
Yeah,
and I've got one here I'm just going to read that's from a Donnybrook resident, and this actually happened to the grandparents.
Oh, okay.
So this has been going on for a while. So my granddad and grandma lived out in Loudon. So this one isn't Greenbushes, but this is around this area. So my granddad and grandma lived out in Loudon when they were first married. They were driving home from a dance in Donnybrook one night when Granddad noticed a bright light behind them in the distance, like a headlight. But it wasn't on the ground. Then the radio in the car went haywire, and the car started to slow down. He felt like something was pulling it backwards, like he was towing a really heavy load. He fought it by putting his foot down, and it didn't let up until the bright light behind them suddenly disappeared.
Whoa.
So it's almost, yeah.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like what happened with my mum's car. There was just, the radio was being weird, the car felt like it was struggling, so whether it was drawing energy from the car or what the hell's going on. This is not the only. There are so many. I'm going to read you a couple more of the nationwide ones, like the weirdest ones that have happened in Australia.
Yeah.
That all involve, majority of the time, it's people night driving. And they get something come up beside the car, behind the car.
Yeah. Interferes
with the car. The weirdest one I heard about cars.
Go on.
Was, let me see if I've written it down. They've called it, it's actually been named the Nullarbor carjacking.
Right.
Because this was reported to police.
Okay.
Because it was so terrifying. So it was in 1988, and this husband and wife were going across the Nullarbor.
Like everyone's supposed to. You're supposed to do that if you live here. You have to.
Apparently it's a thing.
Yep.
It's a rite of passage. So they were, chugging along the Nullarbor when a big glowing sphere appeared next to the car. Like a massive big glowing sphere.
Yeah.
Then it went over the top of the car, landed on the roof of the car, and the couple claimed the car was lifted off the ground and then dropped to the point that one of the tyres completely exploded, from the impact, it burst.
Yeah. Whoa, that's...
And the wife claimed that she heard, her voice when she was like, what's happening kind of thing, distorted, sort of, sound, the sound in the car. They couldn't communicate properly when it was all happening. It was like it was all distorted.
Yeah.
So they couldn't actually get their words out properly.
It's pretty weird.
While they were being lifted. Because she'd obviously woken up. And the policeman who was the guy who was reporting on the case, claimed that they'd pretty much said that it was like something picked the car up and shook it and then just chucked it back down. And you could see that they'd hit their heads and stuff, and that the car, literally it was from an impact that one of the tyres just had exploded under the weight of the car being dropped.
That's pretty crazy.
So this is on the Nullarbor Plain. Now, I also received a story from a listener.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Really?
Yeah. Very, very similar. Same exact area. Let me just find it. So this one came from Peter. Now, him and his wife were driving... it's Nullarbor Plain. Him and his wife were driving from Bunbury to Townsville, and it was 1973. So, about a decade earlier, but still. Yeah. He reckons, as he puts it, they got buzzed by a UFO, so something was flying over the top of them. And it was about 2:30 a.m. They were on the Nullarbor Plain. The noise woke his wife up, who was asleep in the back seat, and she woke up then just in time to see the object, so to see it. So she heard it, she could hear it, and then she woke up just in time to... That what woke her up, the sound of this thing, and woke up just in time to see it flying off.
Yeah, you're right.
And it wasn't a flying saucer, it was rocket-shaped and very long, and it's forever imprinted in his head, because it was the weirdest thing in the world. Like, he's just, holy shit.
Yeah. It's an odd one.
Nullarbor Plain.
Yeah. Well, it's a long road.
It's a long road. It's like equivalent to our, Route 66 or something.
Oh, yeah, but way more boring.
But boring. No fun diners or anything. Yeah, so that is pretty friggin' weird.
That's
so
crazy.
it is something that there's so many of the encounters I've read have happened to people in their cars when they're driving.
Yeah, that's weird. I suppose if...
But then they're out and about in areas that would otherwise be unoccupied by people.
Exactly,
If you're in a flight path where perhaps it is... here we go, conspiracy theory number 1.
Yeah.
Perhaps they are testing aircraft.
Exactly, and that's where you'd do it. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah, if the government and the military have got technology that they're testing out, they're going to want to test it away from suburbia.
Yep. Pick on one person. It's easy to deal with one crazy person.
And then people will literally say that person's just crazy.
Yep.
And that's what keeps happening.
Conspiracy.
Well, it's true, which leads me to my next story.
Okay.
This one is just too unbelievable. It's too much. When I read this one, I'm still trying to rationalize in my head how anyone could doubt this as being legit.
Okay.
Because, apparently, this was in Victoria.
Right.
In the 60s. April 6th, 1966, to be specific. 6th, 1966. Dun, dun, dun. The number of the beast. So, Westall UFO incident, it's been called. And the Westall is like an area, a suburb, I'm guessing. A combined total of 200 people. Some teachers, predominantly students, spotted this UFO hovering for about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes this went on for. Between the Westall High School and the Westall State School. So this happened. 200 eyewitnesses saw these crafts. Not only were they hovering, so it wasn't just one craft. Most of the eyewitnesses just saw the main one that came right down, landed in a paddock in between the schools where they did their cross-country running.
Yeah.
But then saw it take off again and fly off. Now, people that were close to where the craft were when this one landed noticed there were also 2 other crafts. So about half of the witnesses saw that there were 3. Mm-hmm. And then the other half only saw the one, because obviously they were focused on it because it was low down and
as you would.
It's a giant friggin' saucer. Yeah. So
20 minutes.
20 minutes they watched this thing hovering between the schools.
That's crazy.
Broad daylight. It was a school day. The kids were all at school when this happened.
Whoa.
So it was described as a silvery disc with a purple hue. It was roughly the size of about 2 cars put together.
No.
They tried to cover it up and told everyone at the schools that, you've just seen a weather balloon. That's all it was. But
fair enough.
But
just resort to the old faithful.
50 years later, there's no concrete idea of what they saw. No one can give them any explanation. They've told all the students and eyewitnesses they have to shut the fuck up about it and don't tell anyone.
Whoa.
So they got completely hushed, and then 50 years later, they're talking about it. So these people are coming out saying, look, it happened. This is what we saw.
Yeah.
To the point that one of the girls involved in the incident was hospitalised in a mental, she just lost her mind.
As you would.
So no one really knows what's happened. She refuses to talk about it. But the parents just that day,
Yeah.
disappeared, took her with him, and no one heard from her again.
Whoa.
Because she had been... There were 3 girls who ran towards the craft. They saw it, and they're like, curiosity got the better of them.
Yeah, well, 20 minutes, that's what I'm trying to work out. 20 minutes is a long time.
It's a long time. So they'd run towards the craft because they were like, I have to see it. We have to see it. Belted down towards where it was.
Yeah.
And one of the girls fainted in shock, and the other one had a complete meltdown.
Yeah.
And then the third one actually went closer and saw it take off, and like it went over her head and off, like, and flew off. So she got to see below. She got close enough. It flew over her head.
Whoa. Yeah, that'd be enough to put you in a home.
Now think about, think about it. This is 1966.
Yeah.
Man didn't land on the moon till 69.
No. So there's no.
So space and everything, all that people knew of space was like really bad horror movies.
There's
like
rumours that we're looking at going to space.
And anything alien related was, it was still very much, bad guys, they're going to come and get you.
Yeah.
There was no knowledge of anything. Yeah. We hadn't even got to space yet.
That's crazy.
So can you imagine these poor kids?
No, absolutely.
So even now as adults, you can look it up. There's actually a video, I think one of the major channels interviewed them.
Yeah.
The eyewitnesses of this. So there is a few interviews if you did want to look further into that one.
Watch that one. That one sounds awesome.
Yeah, so friggin' weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Now there's countless stories about like a black triangle shaped craft as well. All over the world, people have seen this weird triangle shaped craft. Now, when I think of that, I think of military airplanes.
Yeah.
Because I've seen footage and photographs of air bases with these triangular shaped aircrafts. It makes me think that they're testing out different, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Those sorts of ones, I tend to sort of think perhaps it's...
Well, those stealth bomber planes, they're very triangulated things.
And if you're an everyday person that's none the wiser that these sorts of crafts are being tested...
Yeah.
Or have been designed or whatever, and you've got an idea of an aeroplane, cylindrical, it's got the little wingy bits on it.
Yep.
A helicopter's a big circle thing with a windy
with a whirly bit on top.
But then at the same time, one of the stories I have, which was from a Donnybrook resident, and this actually took place in where she came from, which is in the UK. So she's from, I think it's Kent in the UK.
Yeah.
And she said, walking down the road in Kent, looks up, and there's this black triangle flying through the sky. She said it made no sound.
Really?
Like zero sound.
Yeah.
There were lights on it, and she just sort of stopped and went, what the hell?
Yeah.
Same time of night. Like 6:45 at night.
Yeah. Perfect time to test.
Yeah.
Aircraft. Yeah. And also too, just you mentioning that the no sound thing, I do recall there being a lot of research into flying with no sound, because that's the submarine of the sky, isn't it? If you can't be heard at night time, you're winning.
So tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Now, a good documentary that's on Netflix at the moment is the Bob Lazar story. That's an interesting one, and that delves into this whole theory that the government knows more than any of us know, and that for years they've had technology they don't understand, and that they're perhaps testing out this technology, and a lot of the time what we're seeing is that, not actual extraterrestrials, if you will.
I do need to watch that one. I have seen that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch
it's
that
very
one.
interesting.
Yep.
But I mean, the amount of things you do hear about being told not to tell anyone, to keep quiet. I mean, I've been shushed at things. I've been told when I've been a witness of things, just to shush, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Even with like things that aren't bizarre and abnormal, like just with everyday things, just no one needs to know, just be quiet.
Yeah.
It happens regularly because no one wants feathers ruffled. The society doesn't want us asking questions.
No,
the government does. Yeah, well, they can't keep us in line if we're questioning.
Exactly. Keep the box.
Yeah. So sorry, again, getting pretty heavy on the show this week. But, I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. We're here to ask questions.
Tell you weird stuff.
Tell you weird stuff. Be brave to go where people aren't willing to go, because I friggin' love it.
Yeah, it's proper interesting stuff.
Yeah. Now, are you ready for my... I had a bit of a revelation, which I've been brewing for many years. So I've been reading about people's encounters with extraterrestrials.
Right.
And the descriptions of these beings. And just something has stuck with me. Because I'm someone who, Jimmy knows, I will read and research anything and everything. I love history.
Yep.
I love science. I love parapsychology. I really like anything that challenges my mind. And because of that, I see and I look for patterns in things. I'm someone that likes to sort of look for patterns, look for ways to tie things together.
Yep.
Something I have noticed, and this isn't brand new, fresh. Other people have had this theory as well. But of late, I've been seeing illustrations of people who have claimingly they've seen something, a being, been abducted, have experienced something they couldn't explain. The descriptions of a couple of them and the drawings, the eyes, not your trademark almond eyes. There's several with these large circular eyes that take up the entirety of the face that go right to the edge of the face. So like two large discs that sit on the face. These ones have been prominent in a couple of... There was one, it was an Australian abduction.
Yeah.
When I read that one and I saw her drawing, my blood ran cold.
Yeah.
Because I was like, holy shit, okay. It just, my
Matches.
brain...
The pattern.
My brain went to cave paintings. Aboriginal cave paintings.
Very interesting.
The people, the beings, the star beings, that thousands and thousands of years ago, these paintings were done on the walls of these beings, right? They match her picture exactly. She said it was this tall, long creature, the eyes with massive circles that went all the way to the edge of the face.
Yeah.
It's so...
Very interesting. That's a different way of looking at it.
So rather than them being things that have come here, what if they've been here the whole time? This is my theory. What if they're ancient things that have been here the whole time? And yes, they have access to technology or just ability to sort of manipulate things like gravity and stuff that we don't understand how to do yet, but they're so ancient that they perhaps already know how to do all of this.
Who knows?
This could be why the Aboriginal people have worshipped them, why they're in the cave paintings, why the Egyptians have. Because if you look at Egyptian hieroglyphics, there are also references to sky beings and beings that do look very similar to those that are featured in Aboriginal cave paintings. And they're these large-eyed, bald, very slim beings that they don't have noses or ears.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But it also, the other thing that it reminded me of, now this was the Cahill abduction, her description reminded me of Featherfoot.
Ooh.
Now, Featherfoot have been described as just being men, like very tall, slim men, but I've also heard the description pretty much identical. Tall, thin, long arms, black sort of shadow shapes.
Yeah.
She even said they had red eyes.
Sam Squatch.
But these things, like regards to the Featherfoot, it took me back to an incident that I had heard about when I was a teenager in the Cervantes.
Yeah.
Now, they'd had UFO sightings up there as well, but the weirdest thing they'd had is multiple people had been out in the dunes up to the mischief. As you do, you go out in the dunes to get up to mischief.
In the kill time.
At night time, and had been chased by three beings all the same sort of height, very tall, like 7 feet tall,
Yeah.
very skinny, large heads, and they kept pace with them, so they couldn't outrun them. If they stopped, they would stop.
Yeah.
If they ran towards them, they'd run away. Like, they keep the same distance, but they would not leave them alone. So they chased them out of the dunes, basically, these 3 tall shadow people.
Yeah.
But all the stories I've heard about the Featherfoot, it's the same thing. They chase you, but they keep pace, so they don't get any closer, but they keep speed with you effortlessly. And other stories I've heard is that they can outrun. They can definitely outrun if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's like a fear thing. It's saying you don't belong here, you need to leave, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So we got told this story about these 3 tall beings. So they were convinced it was aliens.
Yeah.
But then when I've heard all these stories about the Aboriginal, there's so many folklores of these that they are adamant, like local Aboriginal children get raised with these stories as cautionary tales of, you need to do the right thing, because it's like their law.
Yeah.
If you do the wrong thing, these people, the Featherfoot,
will catch you.
Will get you. Yeah. They're basically assassins.
Yeah.
There's I think it's the Kadachi man, similar kind of person, like an assassin who comes and he settles debts. So if you've done something wrong, he'll punish you. Then you've got your other little creatures like your Wadachis and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the Featherfoot, the description matched the way they moved, the way that they sort of chased these people out of the sand dunes. It wasn't just one person that witnessed this. There was multiple people who had reported seeing these weird beings in this particular area of Cervantes.
Yeah.
And they'd chase them, but they seemed to keep pace with them. That kept me awake at night when I heard that one.
That's pretty scary.
Tall black beings.
Very interesting.
Matches the description of this other woman who claims she lost time, and she said as she was remembering seeing these tall black beings.
Spooky, but cool.
Very spooky, but it could be ancient.
Yeah.
It might not be. Half of the stuff that people are having might not necessarily be your cliche advanced technology, flying saucers sort of things. It could just be we have ancient things living here that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And when it happens, it's generally in the wee small hours when obviously maybe these things are always there at that time. Yeah. And it's just that a person happens to chance by them because they're out and about at an ungodly hour.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that's my theory.
That's a good theory.
That's my theory, that it's tied in with some ancient powers that we don't know about. Yep, I'm getting pretty out there tonight.
No, it's worth it. Do it.
Yeah, so there you go. So have a think about that. What do you think? Do you think we're getting visited by people from other planets, or do you think that maybe they've always lived here and maybe we just didn't notice them? Who knows?
Who knows?
Give me your feedback. I'd love to hear what you think.
Heck yeah.
You can be as crazy as you want. I mean, you hear what I talk about. I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to love hearing your opinions. I love all different opinions. Now, on that note, Jimmy, how do you get a baby alien to sleep?
How?
You rock it.
Thought
Thought I'd lighten it a little bit.
That's a good one.
Before we round up the show. Lighten it a little bit. Got a bit heavy there. Sorry, guys. What happens when you cross an alien with something white and fluffy?
Don't know.
You get a Martian mellow.
Oh,
that one's really bad.
That's terrible.
That one's terrible. I can't go out on that one. Oh. Okay, so jokes aside, let's get back on track. We've almost wrapped up the episode for the evening, but before we do, I just thought I would give you another one of my little incidents that I saw, a very short one. When we were living in Marangaroo, one evening we all saw, the whole family saw, this bizarre orange cigar shape thing. A glowing thing, and it was north up towards like Kingsley kind of Kingsway area, and it hovered sort of upright, which is what was so weird.
That
like
would have been weird.
So
That's not the way an aeroplane
it wasn't flat, like it wasn't a cylinder, it wasn't a long cigar sort of flat. It was upright, like a dash in the sky, and it kind of just gently was sort of going left to right, and then eventually it just went and shot straight up.
Whoa.
And then vanished. So even Dad saw that one. I wonder if he'd talk about it. But I remember just thinking that was one thing, because I was always looking to the sky to see things. But the ones I'd seen before that were more like lights. So you could sort of go, okay, maybe it's a satellite or it's a star. But this was one of the ones that I saw, and I just thought, what the hell could that have been? Because it was an orange cylindrical shape.
Yeah.
Very strange in the 90s.
Very weird.
Late 90s it would have been.
Yeah.
So that was super duper weird. But I can recall several people talking about, and recently I found out that a few other people I know around the same time experienced a sleep paralysis that involved aliens.
Okay.
And not the old hag.
Not the old hag this time.
Or the top hat creep like I had.
Yeah.
Now, this I find really strange, because it's been several people have said, including my mum had one, sleep paralysis one night, and it really scared the crap out of her. She'd seen your cliche grey,
Yeah. Yep.
as they call them, the greys. We're going to be doing another episode more on this topic. There's just too much to cover in one, and I've got lots of stories coming in. This was, it was a being, and I've got a friend who's had the same thing, and then another woman's told me she's had the same thing, where it's been like an incident of sleep paralysis where she's been unable to move and speak, and there's been this being at the end of the bed watching her, seemingly being, she assumed, the one that was doing it to her.
Yeah, yeah.
But since I've explained sleep paralysis to a few people I know, they've kind of, it sounded just like sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
I said, well, then maybe you've hallucinated seeing
Something.
the being. So there's a possible explanation for it, but strange that it was, they were seeing an alien.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And in my youth, my brother said he saw something on his windowsill, and there was this is what freaked me out for like years.
Yeah.
I lost sleep because we all saw this massively bright light, woke us all up, coming from Callum's room, and it was coming like straight through under the door. He was screaming, and we still can't work it out. And I don't know whether he would talk about it still, but Mum said, she's told me that he claimed he saw a little alien man standing like pressed against the window, and there was this vibrant light shining in from behind it. He was so friggin' freaked out.
Yeah.
We were freaked out because I'd seen this vibrant light. It was so bright it was coming through my window. It woke me up.
Yeah.
And then I heard him screaming, and I don't know, I think it was either Amber or Eden, one of my other sisters saw the light as well.
Yeah.
And so we're all like, what the hell was that? I mean, you can't share a hallucination with other family members and wake them up with a light.
No. It's a very one person thing.
The only other thing I thought of is that it was a prank. Is that someone's pranked him.
Yeah. But you'd have to have some pretty mean friends to do that.
Yeah, but you know what? That neighbourhood, there were some nasty shitheads. I had a bloke come in the backyard, bang on the window to freak me out and go, "Dunga, y'all." Like, that's literally the noise he made. That noise stayed with me.
You've still got it.
I still can hear it in my head. So there are people that are pretty nasty. And this was the 90s.
Yeah.
And, you know, every single royal show you could buy an inflatable alien.
Yeah.
So the part of me thinks, was it someone being a shit and pulling a prank with a spotlight?
Who knows?
Or was it something else? Have you ever seen or had weird things occur involving bright lights or beings appearing to you in your room? I mean, imagine being a little kid and having that.
No, you wouldn't sleep.
You wouldn't sleep.
Not for a long time.
And to make matters worse, my older sister decided to paint this massive, big painting of an alien, like, abduction scene with barbed wire and blood dripping and a big alien face. And that was in our games room. We grew up with that in the game. It was really well painted, but far out. Friggin' terrifying.
How funny.
Thanks, Amber.
Yep.
So another popular theory behind what UFOs are is little solar flares or
Swamp gas.
swamp gas again. Swamp gas. I'm not even joking. It is literally it is swamp gas. And obviously our atmosphere is made up of different gases and whatnot, and that things do come through sometimes. And I mean, there was a weird one. There was a weird thing that fell through the sky and people saw it and, oh my God, what the fuck was that? But it turned out it was just like a meteorite
Okay.
thing. But if you've never seen one before and you see it pelting through the sky,
Yeah.
that's understandable. But it's the ones that move in geometric kind of shapes and seemingly have complete control.
Yeah.
Or lift cars up.
Yeah, shaking your car's not
Shaking
great.
your car's not great. But yeah, there's multiple theories. If you have a story or if you've had an experience regarding a UFO or some sort of weird extraterrestrial being or creature that you've seen, I'd love to hear about it. Strange lights. If you are one of the people in the Donnybrook, Argyle region that witnessed the craft that hovered over, because I've heard several people have said yes, that did happen. Multiple people saw it in the town. It wasn't just one person. The UFO from our first episode that we talked about.
Yeah.
Several people have got back in touch with me and said, yes, that happened.
Really?
Most of the town saw something.
Oh, so cool.
So that's another one. If you are a Greenbushes person that has had the lights chase you down the road, I want to hear from you. I'd love to hear how many more people have seen these weird Greenbushes lights.
Yeah.
I want to hear your stories. And if you just have any weird story, non-UFO related, I want to hear them still too. You know how to get in touch with me. Hop on the Southern Paranormal page, Spooky Town Tales, and message me there your wonderful story. If you do not have Facebook, you can email me at audreybramble@mail.com. That's audreybramble@mail.com. And I would love to hear stories. Any stories you've got. Spooky, the spookier the better, the weirder the better, and I'm completely open. Even if it's just a weird dream you've had that kind of came true, or
Reoccurring dream.
reoccurring dreams.
Yeah, haven't done that yet.
Doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Anything.
Send them in.
Send them in. I want to hear all of them. And I want to thank you all again for tuning into the show. And please come back next week for more. It's going to get bigger and better. And I'm going to work at being a bit more professional with my production and hopefully get everything out at a specific time each week. But as you know, I'm a mum of 2 little girls. They keep me busy. So thanks again for listening. And this is Jimmy.
Thanks for listening.
And Morgan. Thanks for listening. That was awkward.
You're great.
I did that backwards. Thanks again. And remember to stay creepy. Bye.